So you failed to control a rumble. How about an entire chair? What the heck?
Well, 4 years ago, I pulled apart my chair and added bass shakers. This has been the #1 upgrade to my setup for immersive entertainment.
I'm talking rumbling bass when I'm listening to music, and in games, I can feel explosions through my body.
Whenever someone comes over, I sit them in my chair and they're always blown away.
So much so that my friend Brett has asked if I can modify his chair. Today we will, but we're gonna take it a step further. I'll give you some tips for doing it yourself, as I'll save hundreds if not thousands with DIY. And I'll also give you a list of off-the-shelf options that you could purchase if you're not comfortable pulling apart your chair. Speaking of which, I'm surprised today's sponsor Flexispot agreed to me pulling apart their C7 ergonomic chair so we can find out if there's much difference between a foam chair and a mesh chair. I was not expecting those results. It just kicked so hard it ripped the stuff off. Dude, I love bass shakers. Like, these things are so cool, and they're not even new technology. Like, it's really simple. See, a speaker will push and pull its cone. That vibrates the air in front of the cone, creating sound waves. When those sound waves reach your ear, you hear sound. But a bass shaker instead pushes and pulls a weight. This will then transfer vibrations into an object that it's mounted to. And so if you're in contact with that object, those vibrations will transfer into your body. Like, to make it as simple as possible, if you go to a concert and you blocked your ears, you would still feel the bass. And so if we just transferred those same low frequency vibrations directly into your body, well, you're gonna feel the bass. We can even see that this bowl of water will vibrate ripples at the frequency of the vibration. This means you don't need to crank a sub to noise complaint levels to be able to feel bass. You can just rock headphones for highs and mids and literally feel it with a bass shaker. So what's the plan for Brett's chair today? Well, 4 years ago, when I bought my chair, I added 2 bass shakers in a mono configuration. This means the entire chair will shake the same. But today, I want to add bass shakers to both sides of the chair for stereo sound. So what you hear in the left and right ear will better match what you feel on the left and right side of your body. And that's going to be a little bit more complicated.
I was hoping I could unzip the zipper, but there's no zip. I could do it by hand, but I want to risk not being able to zip this back together. Plus, it may be hard to get stereo separation inside the backrest, especially if I don't want to drill into the metal frame. So I turned my attention to the mounts of the backrest. Now, I removed a guide plate, which revealed a flat surface just below the lumbar knob. So we can't go up, but we could go to the side of the side support. But of course, there's a problem with mounting to the side. See, I noticed the bracket had 2 ridges, so if I just bolted a piece of wood, it would crack.
So here's a top-down view. We've got the chair, the squiggly bracket. I can put a little wood spacer that will then make it flat across the top. Then I can put a piece of wood that I can mount the bass shaker to, and then put a bolt through all of them into the chair. And so in Inkscape, which is free vector editing software, I'm going to create a hole which is 70 millimeters, so make that a circle, and then the notch area is 12 mil by 25 mil, so that'll be a rectangle in the software. I'm going to round those corners and then union those 2 shapes together to make a cutout for our bass shaker puck. And with measurements for the holes for mounting to the chair, we now have a prototype design. Now, if you're doing this at home, I'd recommend doing what I did the first time, and that is grabbing a jigsaw and a sheet of plywood. You could print out and trace the designs to then cut out your custom mounts. But in the years since, I've switched from the jigsaw to laser cutters. So my current machine is the X-Tool P2. They sent me this at the start of the year. It's a 55 watt CO2 machine. So although I could cut a 6mm thick sheet, no issue, you may only have access to a lower power laser that could only cut, say, 3mm thick. So cut 2 copies, glue them together, because that's all plywood is, just layers of wood glued, and then you would have a 6mm thick mount. I typed in the circumference, not the diameter. It's like half the measurement. And that is why we test with paper. Yeah, that's better. Bruh, smell good? Fresh wood. That will fit. Looking at the side profile, that's never gonna work. That just comes out too much. I always think these projects are easy until I try and make them. You're like, oh.
Whilst I'm thinking of a solution for stereo vibrations, let's begin our experiment and mod the mesh chair. Whoa. Dude, that's so soft.
There's a little fishing rod. How many handles?
Probably best check the ergonomic adjustments before adding base shakers. So I need to keep cables away from the depth sliders and seat tilt angle hinges. And although the armrest adjustments won't get in the way, I don't like that if I lean on one arm, they move.
Whoa. Wait, can you lock it in at midway? Oh, you can. Look, I'm 6 foot, almost where I'd want a headrest. It's pretty close.
With adjustable lumbar support, I can't easily bolt base shakers to the sides, but the lumbar support forces your spine to curve for better ergonomics. However, I found it odd that I couldn't lean against the backrest and sit upright. Flexispot say this is intentional ergonomic design when sitting in an upright working posture.
Currently $370 US gets you the C7 with mesh. Now initially, I wasn't a fan that the most upright backrest position was back here, but after a week, I've noticed my shoulders stay back more opposed to starting here and then hunching forwards. So they may be onto something. The good thing is they have a 30-day risk-free return policy, so you can try it out because everyone's body is different. You can check it out from the link in the description below.
The base of most office chairs are attached by 4 bolts. With measurements of the spacing between these holes, I can replicate the holes for bolts to pass through on my design. And with the size of the mounting plate, I can easily create a perimeter for my design. Now this is where the sandwich part comes together. The pucks have a protruding portion that can either be mounted in the included riser, which gives them a flat surface, or I can cut a hole into a mounting surface to recess them into. This way, we have a couple layers to mount into, a couple layers as risers to clear the height of the shaker, and all of this can be sandwiched between the seat base and the caster wheel mount. Now, this method does create a problem. I've used 4 layers of 7mm plywood, which means we now need bolts that are 28mm longer. By the way, I had to remove 2 random bolts from the base of the Flexispot seat. They don't seem essential and we're just adding height. The problem too is that while we've now increased the minimum height of the seat by 28mm. So not a problem for me with long legs, but it's something to be mindful of if you typically use the lowest height on your chair. However, if your chair has a wood base, you can drill directly into it instead of using the existing bolts. Or you could mount the shaker off the back of the chair like a diving board. And we'll go over some other options you could buy later.
All right, I've figured out the experiment. I'm going to log acceleration data on my phone, so when it moves, we can see by how much. And then I'm going to send 40 Hertz to each chair and then sit on my phone so we can know how much the phone's vibrating on the chair. To ensure it's a fair fight, I recreated my Secret Lab mount from the same plywood as the Flexispot chair. Okay, that's 40 Hertz, quite a vibration. Check the data. If we zoom in, we have a peak of 0.3 meters a second per second. Now I'm going to pull apart the foam chair and transplant the exact same base shakers into the mesh chair. So sending 40 Hertz, sitting on my phone. I feel like there might be more on my back, but the base feels the exact same. Let's check the data. All right, let's zoom in for a peak. 0.36 meters per second. That's a teeny bit more than the foam chair. I was not expecting those results. I would have thought that the foam chair, being like my acoustic panels, being a dense material, will absorb way more vibrations than that. But between these 2 models of chair, the foam and the mesh, it's not a huge difference. So yeah, it doesn't really matter what you got. I guess the only question left is, can I make the left side feel different from the right side?
Well, in Inkscape, I moved the puck as close to the bolts as possible and chopped off as much of the mount as I could.
Finally got to test if it feels like it's coming from a side. Hell yeah, dude. Like, I'm so nervous if this doesn't feel like it's coming from the left. Bro, it just kicks so hard it ripped the stuff off. That's insane. But at the same time, I forgot that I only have short screws. It was only holding on by like the skin of one bolt. Okay, I've wired up a left. I also did the right. Whoa. Alright, that's banging. Now I need to add 2 under the seat.
Before making a stereo mount for under the seat, I need to fix a problem with the audio signal.
Dude, check out this, it's crazy. Hear that? Music. See, the plastic on the outside of the bass shaker is vibrating the air and then creating waveforms, just like the cone on the speaker does. So we need to make sure that we EQ the sound to only be the bass rumble frequencies. You could do this with an amplifier that has a knob for like treble and mid, but here on my computer, I'm gonna use my favorite piece of software, Voice Meter Banana. In my Windows settings, I set Voice Meter Banana as my default speaker output. And then I can pick multiple devices to send audio to. So I have my speakers coming from a USB audio interface, and at the same time, a signal for the bass shaker amp coming from a headphone jack. The big benefit is I can simply EQ just the headphone jack. Like if I right click, we have the full equalizer for just the audio signal that's going to the bass shaker's amplifier. And so the EQ takes it from this to this, just the bass frequencies. Now, as I said, it's free, it is donationware, so I've donated to the developer to keep it running because it's essential to my setup. And if you get it and start using it, I recommend you do too. Either way, I still need to get this mounted to the chair.
I'm stoked with this idea. The furthest left and right mounting point under the seat is the armrests. So why not take measurements of those bolts and make a mount that will attach to them? And I thought all I had to do was round some sharp edges on the side brackets and I'll be good to go. But then I realized that the left bracket, which I've been doing my testing on, has a curve that ends below the bottom bolt. But the right bracket has a curve that ends in line with the bolt, which means that my bracket won't sit flat where it needs to be bolted in. So for the layer against the bracket, I'm going to cut out the sections that are in the way so everything can fit.
Oh, it's time to cut the final one. Fresh piece. Whoa, that's hefty. Just plug in, twist. Oh, that's so cool. Now when it comes to wiring, you wire bass shakers how you would a pair of speakers. However, you don't often have speakers on wheels that move around, so you need to be able to unplug this easily. I got tired of having to go under my chair to unplug the speaker wire whenever I wanted to move my chair around, so I made a follow-up video where I added a plug. See, between the amp and the chair, there was only 2 wires, a positive and a negative, so a DC power plug was a super quick, easy mono speaker connection. I also coiled my own cable by wrapping it around a metal pole and then heating it over the stove. This way Norman wouldn't yank it from my chair every time he walked past. However, since we're now doing stereo sound, we need a quick way to unplug 4 wires. And my research led to this speaker plug, a speak-on plug. This allows me to quickly connect 4 wires. I can then simply slide and twist to disconnect. I also found a 3D printed bracket online, so I can put the panel mount into it, attach this to the chair, and then connect the speak-on cable. Now as for the wires on this side that go to the bass shakers, that's dependent on whatever you buy. Now, you don't need to solder all your joints together, you can get some crimping connections to crush a metal core over the wires. There's also Wago connectors. These are reusable with a quick release clip. And you can also get the screw down type, which are used a lot for my desk lighting. For this project, I will be soldering my wires together, but then I'll add on these little spade plugs so I can easily connect and disconnect bass shakers. Plus this can also connect to the speak-on plug. To figure out the right amplifier to pair with the bass shakers that you have and the correct thickness of wire, the gauge between the two, you can use an online calculator. I'll link some below, but I will run you through what I've got. So I purchased the Dayton Audio Puck 8 ohm model bass shaker. In its manual, it specifies 20 watts RMS, 30 watts peak. I bought 4 of these. So we need an amp that can supply at least 80 watts. We go for the RMS rating on the speaker or bass shaker. I bought a cheap 100 watt stereo amp from Amazon. It's by Fosse Audio. If we look at the manual for the amp I bought, we can see it's 2-channel. So we have 50 watts for the left, 50 watts for the right. And the bass shakers manual will actually give us some wiring configurations. So up the top here, we have what I used in my original chair. I wired in mono to a single channel output. But today we're doing what's down the bottom. So we've got 2 pucks on the left and 2 on the right, and we're doing it in stereo. However, this is for the 16 ohm model because they come in 8 and 16 ohms. So that would actually be 4 ohms load on the left channel and 4 ohms load on the right. And we can confirm in the manual for our amp that 4 ohms is within its limits. And if you're wondering why I got the 8 ohm model instead of the 16 ohm, simply because I got a 4-pack bundle on Amazon. So I saved some bucks, that's why. I think it's on, this is a stereo test. All right, amp is on. Turn the volume up, back off a little bit. Oh gee, that is overpowering. Okay, so we can do heavy hits. Now let's pan it. So full left. Oh my days. That is heavy left. Turn up right hand side. The thing is, if I'm pushing hard left, hard right, it's really noticeable. But in a game, it may not be, like fully to the left. I have to do some testing to know if it's worthwhile. I understand if you're overwhelmed by the idea of doing this project yourself. Firstly, I believe in you. Just if you learn how to cut wood, join wires, you're halfway there. But before we go and install the final mod on Brett's chair, I have got some off-the-shelf options that I've seen online that might better suit you. Would you make a vest type? It's aimed at VR. Subpack make a vest aimed at DJs. However, I've read in multiple places that Subpack are behind on their orders. I literally saw a comment on Reddit from 8 days ago, someone saying they're still waiting 3 years later after placing their order. For home theaters, Dayton Audio that make the pucks that I buy, they also have a bundle with their larger bass shakers plus an amp. So you can simply flip your couch upside down, drill it into the frame of the couch, wire it up to the amp, no speaker calculations, good to go. For cars, interestingly, Land Rover partnered with Subpack for the Range Rover Sport SV model. So you could have chair rumbling bass without rumbling the neighborhood. Now, you could modify the seat that you've already got in your car, but more commonly, you'll see car racing sim seats being modded because some simulators can send audio signals for road rumble and impacts to separate channels for bass shakers. By mounting bass shakers at each corner of a racing rig, you could get feedback for wheels as well as feedback on your pedals. And this brings us to the next generation of gaming with haptic feedback. See, developers are starting to add multi-channel audio to allow multiple vibrations around your body. Razer has just released their new Freya HD cushion. You sit this on your chair and then sit on it, and certain games can rumble specific points on the cushion, opposed to us just taking the low frequencies from our speaker signal and sending that to a chair. Now you've got to be mindful that if you have an ergonomic chair with lumbar that's sticking out, you won't be able to put those backrest cushion type models on. So you could just buy a chair that has it all built in. There's the Kratos Pro 4D Throne V2, which has a bass shaker, amp, and battery all built into the chair. But if you really like your chair, you can just get the Buttkicker Gamer Pro. This combo has a clamp that allows you to attach it to the height adjustment cylinder on your chair, wire up to an included amp, and you're good to go. Also, if you didn't know, a bass shaker is also called a tactile transducer. So this is important because if you look at the Razer cushion, we can see that they're using tactile transducers. There are 6 voice coil actuators. But if we look at another haptic device, a VR vest by B Haptics called the Tact Suit, it has 40 haptic feedback points all over your body that games can trigger. However, those haptics are a motor spinning a weight. So it's similar to a gaming controller's rumble. What we're looking at are tactile transducers that are oscillating a weight at frequencies like sound. Hopefully that gives you some ideas of what's out there or what you could use these things for. I really love them. My chair's great, and I just hope that Brett enjoys it too.
I'm not home right now.
Oh, I just got an order of bass shakers for a Brett.
So in that case, hang on.
Yo!
My PC, my screen, and my bass shakerless chair.
Oh, we have to fix that.
For sure.
Oh yeah, that's the grey.
Oh yeah.
Does it match?
Yeah,
Holy,
that matches really well.
Whoa, that matches really,
That's really close.
way better than I was expecting it to.
Oh yeah, I went to my tub of spare fabric and found some grey felt that I thought would match his chair and stapled that to the wood. We did have problems with the bolts gripping and ripping at the felt, but eventually everything was screwed in, soldered together, and the connections crimped. I love this stuff. It's called Make a Bracket. Now, normally I use my vise, but I just made a quick and dirty one with some pliers and covered it in tape to minimize scratches. We have a problem. See, you may have noticed in some of my tests, rattle.
It's like putting a sub in a car and you gotta like pack out foam in every part.
This is easily solved by putting your arms on the armrests, packing foam between 2 hard surfaces, or putting a rubber band around levers so they're not flapping about. Or simply turning the vibrations down, because at a normal level, it's not noticeable. Quite a vibration.
This is one I dropped before.
Yeah, I may have broke one. Thankfully, at normal levels, it's not noticeable. So let's get voice meter loaded so we can send audio to Brett's wireless headphones and the bass shaker chair at the same time, and EQ the headphone jack that's going to our shaker's amp. So how does music feel?
It's a good combo with the headphones.
Brings it, because
Yeah.
it brings it lower than headphones.
Yeah, gets rid of any small rattle that you might be able to hear, but then just adds to the music then. That's sick.
And what about gaming?
Whoa, I didn't even know there was like explosions in the background and they're causing it to shake. Like how many times have I played this and never really noticed? Yeah, even with the firing. That vibration's good though. It's like at a good level as well.
Yeah.
It's not distracting, but you feel it in everything. Oh yeah, like I feel like little vibrations while it's on fire.
It's rumbling.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
You feel
Yep. I felt like I was holding it. Oh my God.
And the question that we've all been waiting for, is there a difference from the left to the right?
Yeah. When you spin, it's quite noticeable because it's still rumbling. Yeah. Okay. It's subtle, but it's definitely there. I was almost expecting it to be more just like on or off. You could definitely feel like the little vibrations that I wasn't expecting.
So how much did this project cost? Well, there's the parts that are bolted to the chair, the amp, and the speak-on cable in between, which I ordered extra long so I could pinch some for my chair. As usual, there was time and material loss to prototyping, which you can save by grabbing the files from my website, linked in the description below, and that includes the mono sandwich mount for the Secret Lab and Flexispot chair. A rough total of the products purchased and materials used comes to 250 Australian dollars for the quad shaker stereo system. You could reduce the cost by just going stereo under the seat, or even stripping back to just a mono signal so you don't need a speak-on cable. At the end of the day, I'm stoked that I made a stereo bass shaking gaming chair that doesn't require batteries to be charged and doesn't affect the ergonomics of the backrest. To answer the big question, yes, I can live without bass shakers, but I've gotten so used to them. Like as Brett said, you notice little details, impacts, explosions that you'd normally miss unless you had a huge subwoofer that would be disturbing everyone around you. Because at like a general listening level, these are barely noticeable. If you liked today's video, thumbs it. If you loved it, sub it so you don't miss out on more tech reviews and custom tech projects like my desk build and custom PC, which we're actually pulling apart next week to make some improvements. Big thank you to Flexispot for sponsoring today's video. I can't believe they let me pull apart the C7, which you can find linked in the description below. And yeah, good luck with your chair modding. Bye. All right, that's banging.